Hey guys, good evening. It's about 12:20 in the morning, and I just finished a project print. And so I was on Facebook a bit today, and there's been some discussion around the use of these angle supports that provide rigidity on the CR-10, and I'm of the mindset that those aren't needed. So there's a few other people who are suggesting that they are needed and are vital to quality, tall, narrow prints. I've never done one, so one person on there had indicated that that a tall cylindrical print of upwards of 200 to 300 millimeters would not come out well. And I am just going to try and figure out whether or not that is true. So what I've got is here's my S3D model. It's 50 millimeters wide by 300 millimeters tall. It has a 2 millimeter wide cylinder on it, and I'm going to print just a raft. We're going to see how this comes together. I've got this set to fast print with the Travis Fletcher's settings, so I'm going to just show you that so you can see what I've got. It says 4 hours and 38 minutes. I'm going to show you my setup. Right now I've got no supports, just a normal setup. I do have a very sturdy platform that I know is true, and I've got some cable supports in the back there that help drive my cables to and from. Just a little homemade thing I made. Nothing really elaborate, just a paper clip with some shoestring and a couple of rubber O-rings. And these are nice. They don't provide a whole lot of friction, so my cables move back and forth with relative ease. I've got my filament coming through a very small hole in the wall with just a tiny piece of tubing and just a standard filament spool on my control box that runs directly across. I find that this setup, while not the most glamorous, provides the least amount of friction and resistance, and for that reason my extruder doesn't work very hard at all. So nothing else really to note. Standard glass. I've got my 3 clips in front and 1 in back. I've been doing that since day one, and it's provided really good results. So I do have a little camera up here, and that is a Wi-Fi camera. It's kind of nice. It was only $24, and I can see my prints all day long. I do not have an octopi set up, so I have no way to kill the prints. So I don't know whether having that camera does me a whole lot of good other than cause me to panic if something's going wrong. But knock on wood, to date now, probably in my 5th week of printing, I've had 0 problems. I just finished printing another piece to my patent prototype, and these have turned out quite well. Very smooth. I printed this one at 200% on my box speed, and you can almost see where I turned it up 200%. A little bit of varying in the lines there, but I think it almost looks like it turned out better than the lower half, which was printing at about 120%. So, you know, it's pretty darn good print. I've had excellent success with these settings. There's no stringing, there's no zits, there's really nothing to complain about. So anyway, oh, I also have my my filament detection device unhooked. This came loose, and all it does is cause this thing to flop around up there, so I decided just to take it off. I'm never running prints large enough where I'm going to run out of filament, so it's not been a problem to date. So anyway, I'm going to kick this off, and I'm going to leave this. It's at 201%. Focus. That was my last print, so I'm just going to set this up here. Cylinder test, and it's now heating. I was preheating my bed, which I typically do, so that it's nice and warm. It's pretty darn warm right now. So the only other thing I've got going on is my enclosure. If you haven't seen, it's pretty straightforward. Nothing fancy, just some particle board, plexiglass, and that's about it. I leveled my print bed up on my last print, and it literally just finished, so I'm not going to touch the bed. I'm going to leave it as it is. So the nozzle's getting warm here, and I'm going to go ahead and keep this on right here just for a minute or two so we can see this thing start up. And I'm going to let it run overnight, and we'll see what happens. If I get this infamous wobble that all of these folks on the 3D forum are talking about. I have high expectations, so I'm hopeful that it'll come out really well, and not to discount the need for these angular supports, but I find a lot of people spending a lot of time and a lot of money putting all of these fancy little doodads on the printer, only to see that their prints have not gotten materially better, if that's a word, than the stock setup. I'm still running stock extruder, stock fans. I literally have changed nothing on this entire printer, and to date I've had a number of successful prints. These were my test cubes. They're pretty darn good. Look, there it goes. So let's see what happens here. So I usually pull these little strings off of here before it gets down. I know it wipes itself clean, and Travis Fletcher's file avoids my clips, so it'll come down and stop right there, and then it'll draw about a 5-inch run in order to clean the nozzle off. And it's I'll tell you, I haven't changed anything in there except sometimes I'll just change the infill or whatever, the rafts or the brims or whatever you want to call it. So it's going to do its thing. It'll lay out a nice even line, and then it's going to shoot right over to the center. Now this is it should be a perfect cylinder. My initial layers are designed to run slower so that I get good adhesion, and well, there she goes. So this raft will probably take a few minutes, probably 5 or 6, to actually finish as it completes its couple layers. I do this rafting on narrower jobs because I've had better adhesion. I get the elephant's foot on the bottom, and you can kind of see it on this one here. It happens on this gray inland product more than on the other blue I used, which I didn't get that I don't know what you want to call it, if it's called an elephant foot or not. That's the term I've heard thrown around. But yeah, the gray has done that more. So I don't know if it's a material issue or just the difference in color, the pigments they use, whatever the case is. The gray seems to do that more. But this tends to avoid some of that, and I don't think I've had these problems on smaller cylinders. It happens on these rectangular prints more. So that's about 10 minutes, and we're not going to sit here and watch this thing print. So I'll step back in here in about an hour or so if I'm still up and see how it's come along, and then I'll have a follow-up video in the morning. We'll see how it looks. Keeping my fingers crossed. See ya.